being glorified. Jesus was going out. His message was going out, and people were coming to salvation. That thrilled Paul more than his own freedom. I'm telling you, think about this. What is it that we really value? I'm sure he loved his freedom as much as any one of us did, but not as much as he loved seeing people come to salvation. Paul's joy was not linked to the outward circumstances that we have in life. See, these obstacles, these things, junk that comes into our life, sometimes these obstacles or these chains, if you will, if you want to use the chain metaphor, sometimes those things are beyond our control. Jan's got to go in for surgery tomorrow. She did not purposely make her back get so bad where she has to have surgery. There are a ton of things, from health issues to the economy in the state of Michigan. Why worry about it? You can't change it any, but anyhow, all these things, they're not pleasant. Sometimes family difficulties and different things, all these things, some obstacles we have are external. By the way, some of those obstacles we bring on ourselves. Some of those problems we bring on ourselves. Things like choosing a particular type of career path. Things like choosing certain hobbies. Like choosing to do certain things. And they can become problems for us. Right? And so those outward circumstances then begin to drive who and what we are and what we do. And then we find ourselves all twisted up. But Paul was at peace while he was in prison. More than that, he was full of just overflowing joy. Why? Because people were coming to know Jesus through his situation. And I mean in a big way. So, prison sounds like bad stuff. Now, I want to dissect a verse here for you in verse 12. First thing he says, I want you to know, brothers. First thing he says, I want you to know. This is a wonderful expression that was very commonly used in the Greek. And basically it's like this. I don't want you to be misunderstood. I don't want you to think wrongly. This prison thing, not bad at all. And by the way, he uses that wonderful term, brothers. You see this wonderful affection he has with the church of Philippi. And he says that what's happened to me has really served to advance the gospel. Advancing the gospel. Well, how, pal? How is it advancing the gospel? Look at verse 13. He says, as a result of what? Of him being in prison. As a result of him being in prison because of his faith in Jesus Christ, it has become clear throughout the whole palace guard and everyone else that I am in chains for Christ. Because of my chains, most of the brothers in the Lord have been encouraged to speak the word of God more courageously and fearlessly. Okay? So, how does it advance the gospel? First of all, check this out. You got Paul, and he is chained to a Roman guard. And by the way, this is literal. He is literally chained to this guard. And by the way, the way they ran these Roman guards is that there would be 4 guards who would run 6-hour shifts, 24 hours around the clock. And so Paul would have these 4 guards chained to him, all throughout the day. And what would happen is that these Roman guards would then go back. These were special guards, by the way. These were the palace guards, or the Praetorian guards. These were the elite guards that would stay in the Roman palace. And they would go back, and they would share with the other guards. And no doubt they were talking about Paul. And Paul was sharing, what would you think Paul was sharing?
Jesus.
Huh?
Jesus.
Yeah, but specifically, how do you think Paul was sharing Jesus? His faith in Jesus. But how about him? Anybody know this? Huh?
His own story.
Bingo! You just hit it, man. Paul was sharing Jesus. You're all right on that. But Jesus as it pertained to his story. Okay? So he was sharing his story. And those people would take Paul's story. Man, did you hear about that Paul guy? And, he was persecuting this church. And then he was on the road to Damascus. And he was going in there to persecute even more of these followers of the way. And while he was there, he was struck down, and he was struck blind, and he heard Jesus speak to him. He heard Jesus speak to him. You know that Nazarite guy who was crucified in Jerusalem. He heard him speak to him. This dead guy was alive. And he was speaking to Paul, and he's working these miracles through him. And I've heard stories, and these guys are starting to chat, and they're hearing more and more about Jesus. And so the whole palace guard is beginning to understand who Jesus is in this very real context of the life of the Apostle Paul. And so then, all these people then are sharing with, guess who? Caesar's house. These are the uppity-up folks. This is the government. These are the princes and the princesses and all that kind of stuff. Or these are the shakers and the movers. Well, these people all know thousands of people. And so now it's going out into all of Rome. Wow. It's all because this guy is sitting in prison because of his faith. And he is faithful. He doesn't care about his own needs. He doesn't care about his own wants as much as he cares about Jesus and him crucified and sharing him with other people that they might come to salvation in droves. Which, by the way, you can see this pattern throughout the book of Acts. Who should we be sharing Jesus with? Man, we need to find those people who are influential to other people. And this is the pattern that Paul used. Sharing Jesus. Now in Caesar's household. Now it's beginning to grow throughout all of Rome. The church was huge in Rome. Now I want to just think about you and the times and the things that stress you out, freaks you out, that messes up your world to where you can't sleep at night. And what is it that is your obstacle? And I want to get really practical, like right now. What is it that's your obstacle? What is it? And what is it that's stressing you out? And then go back and look at what is it that I really value? What is it that I value? What is it that I really want? Oh, so much of my life I've been so defensive so many times. And I wonder why. And God's making it clearer to me as I get older. Because you're really insecure, Tom. Because to you, what's most important is that you project a good image to people. And that's what you value more than maybe the relationship you're having with somebody. It's like, oh, I get it, Lord. So if I don't have something I have to defend, you know, the Apostle Paul even says, he's dead. He's died to this world. What does he have to worry about? Now, I've used this illustration before here. I don't know. Some of you may remember it. Some of you haven't. But you remember, any of you watched Band of Brothers? Band of Brothers, it's a very violent movie, but it's got some really good lessons in it. There's a particular lieutenant there, and I can't remember his name. But he was extremely courageous. He'd run across enemy lines and do all these acts of bravery, just walk around while bullets are shoo, 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 shoo. If Tommy was here, I think he'd know what was his name, Barry? Do you remember that lieutenant? Well, anyhow, he went over to the foxhole, and this one guy was down there, and he was just cowering in fear. And so the guy talked to him, and he goes, you know why you're so afraid? Well, of course, the one guy wanted to know why this guy could be so courageous. He goes, I'll tell you why you're afraid. You think you're going to live through this. You know, you think you got something to live for here. We're not making it out of this thing alive. You just might as well get used to that right now. I have. I'm dead walking. And so what is there to worry about? That was kind of an interesting point of view, but I took it spiritually. And you know, oftentimes we value a bunch of junk that we don't need to. And as Christians, we've died to this world. Why live in it any longer? And so when our heart and all of our emotions are so tied up in the values of the things of this world instead of Jesus Christ,